So once I started writing books, it was more rewarding. God planned for me much better than what I had planned for myself.
Tea or coffee? What is your elixir?
Water, water.
Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Seema Chhoriya, and I welcome you all to another insightful session on great principles. It is said that kids don't remember what you teach them, they rather remember what you are. And I'm sure after today's conversation, you will not be able to forget my guest. Her learnings, her knowledge, her insights, they will totally keep you in awe, and you will be left thinking where we are, who we are, and what we are heading to. So, without any further delay, let's welcome our guest for today, a very thoughtful educator, Mrs. Aradhana Rana, Director, the Icon Public School, Nagar, Maharashtra. Welcome to Great Principles, ma'am. It's an honor to have you with us.
Thank you very much, Seema.
So, ma'am, let us, begin first a little about knowing you, about your vision, and how did you started your journey in this noble profession of shaping lives.
My journey was interesting in quite a few ways because I didn't set out to be a school teacher at all. I did my master's in nutrition from Delhi Lady Urban College, and I was very good at academics. And I always dreamt that I'll probably go into research, go to the US. So I envisaged my life in the United States more than India. But destiny had other plans, and while I was pursuing my doctorate, I just about started, and this army officer came along, and I got married to him. And this just completely changed my life. While I was doing my PhD, I switched to B.Ed and completed my degree in education and got married to him. So now army takes you to very, very small stations. As such, there was no opportunity to teach in any university. My subject was not such that it could I could do anything in it in smaller towns. So gradually, one started teaching in army schools and all sorts of age groups, and it just went through child rearing, bearing, and I've taught practically all possible classes from nursery to college. Just did whatever I got. And one thing I really believe in, that you cannot change your circumstances, but you can make the best use of them. So whatever I got, I did it very, very happily and no regrets at all at the end of the day, that because it gave me such a wide perspective to life, gave me a lot of experience in various fields. And gradually I realized that school teaching was not really bad. I quite enjoyed it. But what, in later years, as we came towards retirement, sort of a little boredom or a little I set in, and it was doing the same thing. I am a thinker, and I like to do things my way. I like to experiment a lot. So when you teach in schools, you're very restricted. So that is how I decided to leave teaching. And then we opened this school of ours, the Icon Public School. My husband retired meanwhile, and both of us started the school. We started from a handful of children, and today it's a senior secondary school with 1,200 plus, clientele. So this whole process in life was very interesting and very, very rewarding. And this is the best part of my life, when I started this school and I could experiment all those things that were in my head and I wanted to do. I could do it in my own school. So that was a very rewarding experience. So I did the principal and director of the school for 16 years. Last year we appointed a principal. So now I'm more in the advisory capacity. Now, during this whole journey, I got very interested in English language. And it's a long story, how I stumbled upon it. But I thought of opening a spoken English institute, which I ran for 4 5 years in between. And once we started the school, I became rather busy. But then that carried on, and I got into writing. So I started writing books on communication skills, English grammar, English speaking, because I had taught a lot of English during my life. And I always felt that English could not be taught as pure grammar, could not be taught as just, this kind of slang we used in spoken English. So it was a combination of very good grammar and the nuances of speaking English. So that is how my books are based. They are very different from spoken English books and grammar books. So it's more usage grammar, how you use. So once I started writing books, it was more rewarding. And now when I see my life, I look back, I think God planned for me much better than what I had planned for myself. And it's very rewarding.
Hearing you, there's one thing very, very clear, which I think all my viewers would also agree, that do where your heart lies. Work what gives you joy. As you said,
Exactly.
things started becoming monotonous. There are many people, those who say, no, no, I like what I do. In, rather, even, they just don't want to put up that face and say that, no, I don't like teaching. But, that is the very honest answer that you gave us today. Because, if you're not getting the joy, you're not getting the feel, you will
Yeah.
not give your 100%. And as you mentioned that how school flourished, it's all because here you're getting the joy. Here you have put in your 100%, so results are there. So moving ahead, ma'am, as you were telling me that the school gave you opportunity to do a lot of experimenting with the things which were there in your head. So tell me, what is the vision of your school and what is the unique things that you have come up with at your school and how they are benefiting the students at large?
When I was teaching, more often than not, I put up a lot of ideas to managements, and I told them I wanted to teach in a particular way. But it was not to be, because schools have their own restrictions, their own rules, their own syllabi. So I was not really allowed to work on a wider platform. So when we started the school, since I had a free hand and I didn't have a boss over me, so we experimented a lot, different methods of learning, different methods of teaching. Now, terms like blended learning, flip learning have now come into play. I did not really know the terms as such. I didn't know the theory of it. But somewhere, I just thought that these were wonderful methods. So, flip learning is something I've been advocating from 16 years ago. And I've been training my teachers to do this. And they were also untrained because, teachers, they have studied and they have done their education degrees from very orthodox kind of institutes. So they're not used to these kind of new methods. But it was very rewarding to see them enjoy it. And gradually, these kind of methods were seeping in. Of course, it was taking a lot of time. And then came Corona. And, this whole pandemic situation, I think it just made my dreams bloom. Whenever I go on any show, I am raving about these 2 years, while I think everybody else is lamenting the fact. I don't undermine what people went through, health wise and in their families, mental, physical, emotional health. It was really bad. But fortunately, for me personally, and for the school, for the teachers, for education at large, yeah, it was a wonderful time. And what was in my head for so many years took shape. And then I had these words of creative thinking, design thinking, and flip learning. So now they gained status because now they became formal words. So everybody was doing it. It became much easier for me to implement it in the school. So that was one thing that we did very well. And that is why our school was very successful, during that time. And now we are seeing the fruit of that success even now. So that was very good. It built up a lot of teamwork in teachers because they realized that what I was advocating throughout was actually now the world was, recognizing it. So probably they looked at me with more respect than, they did otherwise, because they always thought that, I was implementing new ideas every year. And probably, half of them worked, some of them didn't work, but most of them did work. So from that point of view, it was very nice.
Absolutely, ma'am. The 2 years actually revolutionized the entire education domain. It brought in the technology. Teachers were so apprehensive of it, and today look at them. They are so pro. They will show you more better apps to do a certain thing. And in no way I regret that 2 years there was something which we didn't achieve. Yes, there were a lot of tough situation in front of us, but it made us tougher by fighting it through. And we
Yes.
have find out ways now. Our children are globally connected, understanding how the world is, what are the situation out there. They are sitting in one room and discussing what are the cultures like, what are the people like, what are the languages, what are the resources available. So what a wonderful thing it has been. And yes, as you rightly said,
Yeah.
initially people don't accept the change, but once they realize the benefit of the change, they totally agree that, oh, we were a little late in under realizing that there was so much potential in us. So uh, on this note, we have reached the interesting segment of the show. This is called rapid fire round, and you have to answer me in one word or one sentence would also do. So here just few
Okay.
fun fast paced questions will be asked. So I hope you're ready for this.
Always.
Okay. So here goes my first question. Who is your biggest inspiration in life?
It's a very cliche answer, but really, my mother. I'm a product of a single parent, and what I imbibed from her is what I am today. So I would, all my books are dedicated to her. So my mother.
What do you think people notice about you when they look at you for the first time?
I don't know. I think, people should answer that, but I believe that I am very critical of myself. So maybe I could answer that. I think they notice my smile, not for the beauty of it, but for the positivity of attitude. I think, I'm always smiling. So that's what people compliment me for, that I'm always happy.
Wow. And I think smile is the best accessory any woman could wear. So, do not forget to put it on when you're moving out or anywhere you are. It drastically makes a difference, as you rightly said. So, moving ahead to my next question,
Yes.
tea or coffee? What is your elixir?
My age.
Your elixir, tea
Did you
or
say my
coffee?
age?
No, no, ma'am. Sorry. I asked tea or coffee. What is your elixir?
Okay, okay. Water, water.
Water, no tea and coffee. How do you manage then? How do you get your
No,
kick?
no, I have tea and coffee, but nothing can replace water. I have tea, coffee. I have practically anything you give me. I'm happy because I'm a foodie, but nothing like water.
What to you is the perfect, most ideal age to be?
Age is actually quite a number, because when somebody asks me what my age is, I always ask them, physiological age, emotional age. I think emotionally, I am about 30, and I am mentally about 40, and physiologically, I am 66. So it depends on how you're thinking. And, sometimes you feel 16. So I don't know age. We always count physiological age. It's more than that.
Beautifully answered this one. Truly, age is just a number. So, if you decide, you can achieve anything at any point of life. So, moving ahead to my next question, creativity or logic? What do you go with it?
Again, please repeat the question.
Creativity or logic? What do you go with?
I am such a practical, logical person that I am. So people sometimes say that I'm too logical. I have never thought from my heart, always with my head, even as a young girl. So logic.
Logic. All right. Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram? Which steals most of your time?
Facebook. My life is on Facebook. I'm very, very, I'm not at all secretive. So everything is on Facebook. I don't know Insta. It's too, I think, adolescent kind of medium.
All right. Recommend a book for our viewers.
Books. Well, lots of books to recommend depending on your mood. I really cannot recommend one as such, but what instantly, comes to my mind is Gone with the Wind. Maybe it's just this time, but well, that's the first thing
All
that's come
right.
to my mind, but there's so many.
All right. Coming up to our next question. Do you think there were situations in your life where lying, we all say lie at some point of time. So lying was needed and understandable.
Many situations. I mean, I won't for a moment say that I've never lied in my life. Many times, and sometimes lies are very, very necessary, because if you speak the truth and hurt somebody, I think it's better to lie. So many times.
Very honest answer again. Comfortable silences or non-stop conversation? What do you like?
Non-stop conversations. I'm not a silent
Wow.
person.
Wow. So the people, those who speak, actually gain a lot of knowledge also, because then they get to hear a lot too, because that is what the conversation is. So moving up to the last question in this segment,
Yes,
which is
yes.
more preferable, being nice or being fair?
Being fair. I really truly believe in fairness in life, and I'm always fighting for fairness. So being fair is most important.
So you're very, very fair with your students, with people around. You always believe that,
I would like to think so. I would like to think so, because I try to be extremely, extremely fair to everybody.
wonderful. And I think that is how we should teach our students to be. If you try to pretend to be just nice, it may backfire because you will do more damages. So just be fair. That is more advisable. So this was lovely to know you in this segment. It was, some really fun answers also, and some very honest revelation from ma'am's end. Now moving up to the last question of the show, which is the expert talk question. So, ma'am, you mentioned that you have authored few books, and you were talking about the Spoken English Institute. So, tell me one thing. Do you think that the regional language being made mandatory, especially in Maharashtra, we have Marathi mandatory now? Do you think it's the right decision?
You see, theoretically, it's a nice decision, because what I notice is that children learn better in the regional language, but practically it's not, because ultimately our children are global citizens, and unfortunately, India does not have one common language. So I would like Hindi to be a national language, common language, but it's not so. But now, when children are going all over the world, they're becoming global citizens. English is one language that is understood in most parts of the world, and they would need it for their careers and their growth. So, for the lack of any other language in India, I really feel that it's very, very important to have English as one of the main languages. And that is why I write in English. What happened was, I was running a placement agency in Delhi when we were posted there. So 90% of the times people didn't get jobs because they failed at interviews. And that is how this idea of opening a spoken English institute and later writing books in English evolved. Because ultimately, you do everything to earn a good living, and people want white collar jobs. No matter what we say, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but English does matter in life, for the status, for anything. So that is why I feel theoretically it might be okay, but I think they should give more prominence to English. After all, why do people hanker, over these public schools? They come thronging to these English medium schools. They have aspirations that their children will become English speaking.
Absolutely. Even I was wondering, I mean, especially for the people, India is such a diverse, rich, varied languages land. that people, those who keep transferring from one job to another job, and they just keep changing the schools of their wards. It's so difficult when the regional
Yeah.
language is made mandatory in the at school level. So even I had multiple thoughts on this decision, but now decisions are decisions and they have to be followed. Anyways, so we were talking about language and how it is impactful, and how English is a global language. So tell me, ma'am, what do you think is the role and importance of language in the curriculum at school level?
I really feel, as a personal opinion, that language is meant to be a medium of communication. In our schools especially, we are teaching them too advanced a language, really not needed. See, Hindi also, as a language, when we teach them, the kind of Hindi we teach them is never used in day-to-day life. They are not the children who are going to do Hindi literature MA. If they do Hindi literature MA at a later stage, when they are more mature, they can easily learn a language. Like, a lot of parents come to me and say, do you have French in your school? Do you have Spanish? I said, where are you going? Are you going to France or Spain? There is no point learning a language if you're not communicating in it. Similarly, English. Shashi Tharoor is a wonderful, a person that speaks beautifully, but that is not the kind of English we use in our day-to-day life. So everybody does not become Shashi Tharoor. If I want to be in that circle, I will gradually learn the language. At school level, we should teach varied languages, but at spoken level, whether it's English, Hindi, Marathi, Punjabi, whatever. But if we teach just at spoken level, we'll be able to teach many languages to children.
Absolutely, ma'am. Well said. So, along with that, ma'am, I would also like to know from you that if a particular child is not very good at learning, or what, not very good communicator, how do you hone communication skills? What can parents do? What can teachers do to build good communication, especially in English language?
You see, for this, the only way you can learn a language is to speak it. That is why I really am for all spoken English. A lot of stage activity should be encouraged where the children become confident. And this making English compulsory as a spoken language in school, it does work a lot of times, but eventually the whole atmosphere has to be such. Like, I tell the parents, just take the child for 6 months to London and he'll become English speaking, because there's no other language spoken there. So that cannot happen in schools. So we should accept the fact that children are not going to be very, very fluent in one language or the other, but they should be able to communicate. And by the time they pass out of school, they should be reasonably good to express ideas. And if we take that, I think we're doing pretty fine. Our expectations are too high, and just the communication language, I think, is good enough.
So, I think, ma'am, you have very well shared that spoken communications and spoken skills need to be worked on first, and this is how schools can do better. Because now the technology is so advanced that, as you said, why French, why Spanish? We need to focus on the language which is globally accepted. Which will give a wider
Yeah.
range to a child when he steps out of the world. So, one need to master this global language, and you said just speak and speak and speak this language, and that is how you can learn it better. So, it was wonderful to have you, ma'am. We have got a lot of insights, and I'm sure my viewers have a lot of food for thought today. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you again with a lot of more topics to discuss here.
Thank you so much, Seema. There's a little voice lag, so you're not very clear at the moment. I hope you're clear at your end. But thank you very much. I've really enjoyed the session. Very nice talking to young people like you and who are doing such a great job.